Hello and welcome to Going Google with Miss Guevara. For some background information, this was the name of my YouTube videos during remote learning last year when COVID first hit. It was my whole brand, so to speak, and how I would recap the craziness of the prior week and introduce the weekly activities for my students. It was a time. So I have continued to use the name every once in a while for assignments throughout the MET program. In this week's episode, I will be describing what's in my bag 10 years ago. I have chosen to deliver it primarily by audio, aka a podcast, considering my first mode of delivery was audiovisual, emulating a What's in Your Bag video on YouTube where celebrities show and describe the contents of their bag. However, I have also included the transcript for my podcast as well. So, sit back, listen, and enjoy. As mentioned, I have chosen to redesign this assignment by describing what would have been in my bag 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was in my early years of university at UBC. My first bag was this patterned green and purple shoulder bag given to me by my sister. She had just come back from completing her master's in Australia and she had brought this home for me. And that's what I had used to carry my school contents. However, the bag I most associate my university life with is my purple JanSport backpack. I still have this backpack, and to this day, I use it and for when I travel or for more active field trips with my students like walkathon or outdoor ed. It's an oldie but a goodie, and I think that Gen Z kids would come at me for using it, probably because it's much cooler to use a Fjallraven backpack at this rate, but is that even still cool? Is there something else? Couldn't tell you. So inside my bag was this light teal UBC clipboard folder, which I still have to this day and use every once in a while. It held lined paper and my course's syllabi. It was my preferred way of taking notes in class, and I tended to remember more when writing things down because I was working harder to synthesize, shorten, and write information taught in lectures. It was my attempt at making sure I paid attention to the professors because I wouldn't be checking my phone or scrolling online. My JanSport also has a compartment at the back of the backpack so I could easily fit and locate this clipboard folder. I also carried with me my daily calendar notebook. It was a simple, coiled black notebook from Staples that I bought every year during uni. I suppose it was a residual practice from high school, writing in my agenda every day. It was more a task list of what I should finish that day, and I made use of the monthly calendar in it as well. I suppose this is why I was initially interested and use a bullet journal to this day. So Google bullet journal if you are really into organizing and writing lists and want that little bit of aesthetic. Most days I also had my small Acer laptop. Woo, Acer! I also still own this to this day. It still functions, but is slow and generally needs to be plugged into work. It was actually a birthday gift from my family before I started university, and bless my techie brother who found me a no-nonsense, capable computer that was small and light enough for me to bring around campus. It had a custom purple case. It was nice too, not one of those zip up ones, but it had nice padding and a flap with wooden buttons to close it up. My laptop was a strange size, so there were no cases for it. So my brother's girlfriend at the time asked a friend of hers to make one for me. I think I also sometimes carried my iPad with me instead of my laptop. Not always to do work, but to scroll online or watch something in between classes. I suppose the days I carried my iPad around were the days I didn't feel like doing much work or knew I wasn't going to be on campus long and would just use that iPad to pass some time. It also had a purple case. Can you tell I like purple? That I folded, and it helped prop the iPad up on the table. It was certainly helpful to have my iPad on days when I left my phone at home, which is not very often, but I was able to send messages from it. Back then, there was no WhatsApp or Viber to use, and therefore no apps on my Acer computer to message from. I suppose I could have used email, but iMessage from my iPad was much quicker. Much like my present day self, I carried a small just in case purse. I can't recall which one I may have used or if at all. I just know that I used the front pocket of my backpack to carry a mechanical and a wooden pencil, at least 2 pens, an eraser, and a ruler, I think. Maybe not the ruler. I don't think I had a pencil case because I wanted to limit the amount of stuff I had to carry with me, and I did a lot more traveling between buildings in my undergraduate days than I do now, so that's probably why I carry more things presently. I almost always had tissue and gum and an extra pad or two in the zipper of that front pocket. Um, and similar to present day Clarissa, I always had my electronic items, chargers for my laptop slash iPad and phone, and earphones. I listened to music on the bus, and my 45-minute bus rides between home and school was my time to really relax and usually take a nap. So it was important for me to have music playing to get into the zone and chill out before having to go to work, volunteer, see some friends, or study somewhere else. I also made sure to have earphones so that I could listen to music or watch a video while sitting in the library or the UBC sub. Ah, the sub, a faint memory. Anyway, I think the last main thing I carried around with me would have been my lunch bag and water bottle. During my undergrad, I worked at a store called Smart Set, and the shopping bags were reusable bags. I would just use those bags as my lunch bag, and I was able to fit it and fold it easily into my backpack. Nothing fancy, just handy and practical, and I had so many of them. I wouldn't be surprised if I still had some lying around. They eventually wore out or gotten torn from folding, water damage, or any other external element. And I think that's it. That's what's in my bag. 10 years ago edition. So I hope you enjoyed and come back next week for What's in My Bag 20 years from now, where I predict I won't even be carrying a bag due to pure laziness and a robot carrying it around for me. Bye! For comparison's sake, I have added the transcript from my original What's in Your Bag video. I had posted my video on YouTube and used that link to hand in my assignment, but YouTube has the excellent open transcript feature that shows the full transcript and timestamps of the dialogue. It's fascinating to see the difference between the two What's in My Bag assignments. First, just the number of items in there and therefore the length of the video versus the podcast. I'm sure there are seemingly less items in my undergrad backpack simply due to memory. I cannot recall every item I carried with me, and it was a different experience to describe from memory rather than emptying the current contents of my work tote and explaining them. Moreover, it was a refreshing practice in reflection and going down memory lane of the type of items I carried with me, thinking about the priority and necessity of items. Out of practicality, I carried less items 10 years ago because I moved around from place to place, building to building, much more than I do now. That, or I travel via car more now than I did during my undergraduate years. I'm also inclined to think that I carry more items because as I became more responsible for various things, I started to carry more things that were related to that. Or perhaps I found more items because they came in handy in certain situations, and now I have a broader spectrum of just in case items. Regardless, I enjoyed doing this assignment from this 10 years ago perspective. It was truly intriguing to see the similarities and differences between my past and present self.